Hello, my name is Keshwani. That's Keshwani, Keshwani. We are here because we want to prepare for SAT. We have been solving SAT grammar questions out of this book here, the official SAT study guide. If you do not own this book already, purchase one immediately. You're going to need it. The problems that we are about to solve are the ones that you will find on page number 838. Please turn to it. Page 838, and today is our lesson number 38. These are a series of 18 questions, as I always remind you when we get to this part of the exam. These are a series of 18 questions, beginning with question number 12 and ending with 29. Since there are 18 of them of a given type, which tells us that the first 6 are easy, the middle 6 are medium, and the last 6 are hard. Or if you want to keep your life simple, the ones that we see on page number 838, the ones that we are about to do, they are all easy. As you turn the page, on the next page, on 839, in the first column, you will see medium questions, and on the second column, on the right-hand side column, we will encounter the hard ones. Let's get going. Number 1, on a scale of 1 through 18. The problem is already on the blackboard. It says, although canoeing through the rapids was exhausting, and if you just read this part, although canoeing through the rapid was exhausting, there is nothing wrong with that part. That tells us we do not know what the answer is at this point, but it's not A, because that's fine. Although canoeing through the rapid was exhausting, it was also exciting rather. Although canoeing through the rapids was exciting, it was also exhausting, which is also fine. Answer is not A or B. And we were happy for a time to have the canoe, float serene down a smooth stretch of river. And we were happy for a time to have the canoe float serene down a smooth stretch of river. Do you see a problem? Go through the list. Go through the entire list here. Always keep this list in your mind. You must have this thing in your mind as to what to check on the exam. These are the things that you have to look for. First, we look for subject-verb agreement. There is no such issue here with the subject-verb agreement. Then we look for the tenses. We do not have a sometimes the sentence changes the tense in the middle of it. That's not it. The issue that we have is the adverb here. We were happy for a time to have the canoe. How was the canoe floating? To have the canoe float serenely. To have the canoe float serenely. Float is the verb. Float is the verb. And this part is telling us how it was floating. The part that describes how certain action is taking place is called adverb, because it adds to the verb. He was walking rapid. No, he was walking rapidly. He was speaking slowly. He was speaking quietly. The canoe was floating serenely. We were happy for a time to have the canoe float serenely. That's it. The answer is C. Next one. We need an adverb there. It was floating serenely. Number 2. Undoubtedly, more voters in the urban area. More voters in the urban areas will have voted for Julia if she had taken a less conservative stance. That's the end of the sentence as far as we are concerned. As far as we are concerned, that is the end of the sentence. The rest of the stuff that we see there is the boring bit. We are not interested in that part. Now they use the word stand. I use the word stance. I'll explain to you why, because I wanted to finish the sentence right there. It says, undoubtedly, more voters in the urban area will have voted for Julia if she had taken a less conservative stand on zoning codes than she did. What's wrong with it? What is wrong with it here is that this sentence is what is known as conditional. It is a conditional sentence. They, oh, I almost gave it away. They, more water in the urban area, not will have voted, but they would have voted. It is conditional. They would have voted. They would have voted for Julia if she had taken a less conservative stance. That's it. Of course, I would have come if you had invited me. Do you understand? I would have come. You would not say, I will have come. I would have come. Notice how I said it. I'm digressing here. I would have come if you had invited me. This is conditional. Conditional upon the fact that if I receive an invitation, I would come. You would see me there. I would have come. The reason I'm making the fuss about it is make sure that you do not put down came there. The past perfect of come is come. Do you understand? I would have come, not came. This is the past perfect of it. Anyway, that's what it is. More voters in the urban area would have voted for her if she had not taken such a conservative stance. Look up this word yourself in the dictionary and learn this word, stance, which means to have a certain stance, means to have a certain position on a certain issue. To have a certain position either emotionally or intellectually. Here, of course, we're talking about taking an intellectual position on a certain issue. Taking an intellectual position on a certain issue is to have a stance. If she had taken a less conservative stance, more voters would have voted for her. Would have. It's conditional. Number 3. Writing about people. Writing about people whose circumstances were deplorable. Charles Dickens used the novel to protest social conditions in Victorian England. Let's see what we can do with this sentence. Writing about people whose circumstances circumstances were deplorable. Writing about people whose circumstances were deplorable, Charles Dickens used the novel to protest social conditions in Victorian England. How can we improve this sentence? How can we fix this sentence? Well, in order for us to answer that question, how we can actually fix it, we have to first know what is wrong with it. What is wrong with this sentence? Let's read one more time, shall we? Writing about people whose circumstances were deplorable, Dickens used the novel to protest social condition in Victorian England. There is nothing wrong with it. I did not hear anything awkward. I did not hear anything weird. My ears are not signaling anything. It's fine. There is nothing wrong with the sentence. The answer is E. No error. The answer is E. No error. Number 15. Writing about people whose circumstances were deplorable, he used this novel to protest the social conditions in Victorian England. Number 15. It was fortunate it was fortunate that the doctor, in spite of adverse medical condition, it was fortunate that the doctor, in spite of adverse medical conditions, was able to examine the patient calm. Let's see what we can do here. As a matter of fact, the way they finish the sentence, it gives it away actually. It says he examined the patient calm and competently. Not calm and competent. It pretty much gives it away what's wrong with it. What is wrong with this sentence is, we're describing here how he examined the patient. All of these things that we see here between the two commas here, between the two commas here, in spite of adverse medical conditions, as I always tell you, when you see stuff between the two commas, it is just there to fill up space, to make the sentence longer, to distract you. It serves no purpose as far as we're concerned. Just ignore it. That's the boring bits. We're not interested in that part. It doesn't do anything for us. Just ignore it. It was fortunate that the doctor, well, we don't need that part, the beginning part either. Let's get rid of this thing. So now the sentence reads, the doctor was able to examine the patient calm. As far as we're concerned, this is what the sentence is. The doctor was able to examine the patient calm. He was able to examine the patient calmly. We need an adverb. We're describing here how it is that he was examining, which is the verb. He was examining. How was he examining? Anything that adds something to the verb, anything that gives us more information about the verb is called adverb. He was examining the patient calmly. That's all. And that's answer choice D. Next one. In the early days of steam locomotive, compassionate engineers would sometime have thrown coal overboard in poor neighborhoods. In the early days, and that doesn't do anything, so answer is not A. In the early days of steam locomotive, you can ignore all of that. It doesn't do anything to us. We're not interested in that part. That's the boring bits. So answer is not A. Compassionate engineers would sometime not have thrown. Compassionate engineers would sometime throw coal overboard in poor areas, so that these poor people have something to cook their meals with, so that these poor people can warm their body a little bit in the cold winter days. Compassionate engineers would sometime throw coal overboard in poor area. Not have thrown, not sometimes have thrown, but throw. Sometimes they would throw coal overboard as they were passing through poor area in the poorer neighborhood. That's it. The answer is C. The answer is C. Next one, number 17. Number 17. A According to the store manager, the most important workers were those which had contributed to the reputation of the store, rather than those with the most impressive sales figure. There is nothing wrong with that part. The ending of the sentence is just fine. One more time. And the beginning of the sentence is of no use to us. It is of no interest to us. According to the store manager, ignore that part. The most important workers were those which had contributed to the reputation of the store. And then C, D, and E, we just ignored it. That's not the answer here. Rather than those with the most impressive sales figures. There is no C, D, and E, it's just C and D. So the answer is not C or D. I think I pretty much gave it away, didn't I? Actually, I'm not. And the answer is either this was A. This should have been B, not C. This is B. And C and D is something that we're ignoring here. So let's pretend that this is a sentence. What's wrong with this sentence? Let's pretend this is our sentence. This is the juicy bits. This is what we want to concentrate on. The most important workers were those. Well, workers are living beings. Workers are living things. And when we are referring to living things, we do not say which, we say who. The most important workers were who? Most important workers were those who had contributed to the reputation of the store. Most important workers were those who had contributed, not which had contributed. When we are referring to, I'm going to erase this now, we're going to talk a little bit about it. When we're talking about in grammarian, your grammar teacher will tell you that as far as the people in grammars are concerned, they divide everything into animated objects, and inanimated objects. That's how they speak. An animated object is, what does animated mean? What does it mean to have animation? You've heard of animation, Disney animation. Animation means to give life to something. That's why it's called animation. These are still pictures, and when you move the still pictures very rapidly, your eyes, your brain is fooled into thinking that the people itself are moving. People themselves are actually moving. In reality, it's just the pictures that are being shown one after the other very rapidly. Anyway, and that's called animation. Animation gives to be animated means to have life. And in grammar, we speak of objects being animated and inanimated. Anything that is animated is to be referred with who. Even your cat should be referred to as who. It is my cat who is sick, not I. Notice how I said it. It is my cat that is sick, not I. I just made it up. Most people will go around saying it is my cat which is sick, not me. It is my cat who is sick. Why who? Because cat is an animated object. You understand? It is the dog who is barking, not which. Even if it's animal, even if it's your parrot, it doesn't matter. As long as it has life, it is to be referred with who. Here, an inanimated object has to be referred with which. At this point, I want you to compare. After we had this discussion, I want you to compare the problem that we just did. I want you to compare it with number 14 on page number 658. Turn to page number 658. Look at that problem, number 14, something that we covered on day number 23. And if you want to watch the video of this particular problem, just type in SAT Grammar, day 23, and it will pop right up. Anyway, let's move on to the next one, number 18. Number 18. The survey showed that, the survey showed that, and whatever they're going to say later on, it doesn't matter. The point is, the survey showed that there is nothing wrong with the beginning part of the sentence. The answer is not A. The survey showed that most shoppers who drive prefer the mall more than downtown stores, simply because finding parking is less difficult. Simply because finding parking is less difficult. That last part of the sentence is perfectly fine. There is nothing wrong with it. They prefer the mall simply because finding parking is less difficult. That tells us that the answer is not C or D, because the ending is fine. The beginning was fine. The answer is not A. It's not C or D. Oh, I pretty much gave it away. It would have to be bloody B. Well, there you go then. It is the bloody B. What's wrong with B? Let's see what part is. More than. This is the B part. What's wrong with it? Most shoppers who drive prefer not any old mall. They're not talking about just any old mall. They're talking about particular area. They're talking about particular scenario. They're talking about particular town. They're not speaking in general. They're talking about a certain particular specific location here. It's in a given town. Most shoppers who drive. We're not speaking in general. We're not saying that anybody who drives would prefer a mall instead of a downtown area. We're not saying that. We're not making a general statement. They're talking about particular. They're talking about a specific situation. And how do we know they're talking about a specific situation, not speaking in general? Because of the article the. They're talking about one particular mall. Most shoppers who drive prefer the mall more than the downtown stores. What was wrong with the sentence was that this article was missing. This is called article. Let's talk a little bit about article. As far as the sentence is concerned, we are done. That was question number 18. I'm going to break into a little sermon about the article if you like. This is called, in the parts of speech, when we're learning grammar, we speak of parts of speech, and this is called article. Articles come in two flavors. Did you know that? They come in two flavors. You know what those flavors are? Articles are either indefinite or definite. Definite article is to be used when we're talking about one particular person, one particular mall, one particular store. I went to the store. I'm talking about one particular store. Apparently the other person knows what I'm talking about. I did not say I went to a store. Today I went to the store. Oh, by the way, I did see the movie today. The listener presumably knows which movie I'm talking about. I'm not telling them I saw a movie today. I did see the movie. I did see the movie today. Some particular movie that they had been talking about earlier. And that's called a definite article. The most shoppers who drive prefer the downtown store, or rather they prefer the mall more than they prefer the downtown stores, because finding parking is less difficult. Something to that effect was the sentence. What is an indefinite article? Indefinite article is to be used when we're talking about something in general. I saw a movie today. I saw a movie today. Indefinite article also come in two flavors. Indefinite articles also come in two flavors, A and N. Of course, you know this thing. This is very basic. One uses N when one is talking about something that begins with a vowel. I saw an elephant today. An elephant, he was eating an apple. Yes, while holding an umbrella with the other hand. There you go then. That was it. Number 19. Don't ask me where these things come from. Do you understand? They come out of nowhere. This is not, my lectures are not premeditated. I do not think of these things ahead of time. They just come out of nowhere. An elephant holding an umbrella with one hand and eating an apple with the other. What do you know? Number 19. For people in many societies, for people in many ancient society, work was only, for people in many societies, I leave out words here and there, not for any particular reason, not because it has certain meaning to it, certain wisdom to it. I leave them out because I'm lazy. Do you understand? Instead of saying ancient society, let's just say society. For people in many societies, work was only a means of survival. Now, had that been the end of the sentence, how would we have fixed this sentence? Let's pretend that's the end of the sentence. For people in many societies, work is or was only a means of survival. There is nothing wrong here. So the answer is not A or B. We do not know what the answer is, but it's not A or B. Let's continue. There is no period here. Rather than a way to improve your standard of living. Let's see what we can do with this sentence. What is wrong with this sentence may be a bit difficult for somebody to pick up on if that person happens to be a non-native speaker of English. Here they're testing the very last thing that we see on the list here, which are idioms. Idioms, as I always remind you, are very hard to master for non-native speakers, because idioms are something that you either know or you don't know. There are no rules that the idioms adhere to. There are no rules of grammars that the idiom follow. They are just there. The idiom that we're looking for here is, let's read the whole thing. It will come to us as we read the whole thing. For people in many societies, work was only a means of survival, rather than a way of improving one's standard of living. That's how we will fix it. The idiom here is rather than. When you start out with rather than a way of improving one's standard of living. That's how it goes. Instead of saying rather than a way to improve your way, it doesn't work that way. Do you understand? That was it. I will see you tomorrow. When we'll do the problems that we see on the next page, which are medium and hard ones. Okay? Bye now.